Chapter 13, Terms. The Warren woke, the morning after the fire, to an arithmetic it had never once run in living memory. 11 more embers than it had banked down with, and not one tail fewer. Nobody trusted it. That was the part that closed Ben's throat as he made the morning rounds. The way the freed slept in shifts without being told to, one always propped awake against the wall while the others let go. The way the old doe with the splinted arm woke at the scrape of a soup ladle and had a name and a lie ready before her eyes were open. You could open a cage in a quarter hour. His whole first life had taught him how long the cage took to open after that. He worked the line the way he knew how. Salvie for wire galls. Flatweed mash for stomachs that had forgotten food came in amounts. Granny Sorrel worked the other end of the row toward him, pine honey and tyranny, and where they met in the middle she looked at his dosing, sniffed, changed one thing on principle, and moved on, which from her was a diploma. Fen took her soup and her salve and her blanket and said nothing. She had said nothing since the render house. She shadowed Scab through the warren at 4 paces distance, never closer, never farther, like a doe keeping a fire in sight in strange country, too cold without it, too burned to touch it. Scab, for his part, had stopped counting aloud. Ben caught him twice just watching her breathe, doing the only sum that had ever mattered and getting at last a remainder he could live with. The ledger Ben read by the clerk's own lamp in the gray hour, with Mara beside him in the warren asleep. 9 years. He had set it at the fire like a number. In the lamplight it stopped being a number. Live weight, by the season, by the source, in a clerk's tidy hand that had never once wavered, and at the bottom of every standing order, pressed into wax gone amber with age, the same crest, a bird he couldn't name, lean and long-necked, with a key held in its beak the way herons hold fish, patient, proprietary. Ben took a leaf of Aught's thinnest paper and a stub of charcoal, laid the paper over the cleanest impression, and rubbed the crest up out of the wax the way he'd once lifted prints off a windowsill for a Detroit cop who owed him coffee. The bird came up out of the dark of the page like something surfacing.
"Your apothecary girl?"
Mara said. It wasn't a question.
The market runs today. Purge or no purge, people still need medicine. She'll be at the bars if anyone is.
He blew charcoal dust off the bird.
They wrote 11 of our people into a ledger, Mara. I want to read them back the name that signed it.
Mara looked at him a long moment, clouded eyes unreadable, and then did the things she had started doing lately that frightened him more than the catchers did. She nodded and let him lead.
"Take Tusk as far as the junction,"
She said.
"and Mender. A name topside is a knife topside. Mind which way you hold it."
The great market ran thin and nervous, half its stalls dark, and the smell of last night's smoke had beaten Ben there. He heard the fire discussed 4 times from the shadow of the culvert before he ever reached the bars. A render house on the tallow row, burned to its vats, arson certain, and the tellings already growing hair. A rival guild had done it. A mad alchemist had done it himself for the insurance. Something had come up out of the drains and done it, 4 feet tall with eyes like lamps. And honestly, sir, that one's nearer than you'd credit. Sarah Voss was at her stall. He knew it before he saw her, because her lamp was the only one on the row burning steady. Everyone else's hand was shaking.
"You're alive,"
she said quietly when he came up under the bars. She had a pestle in her hand and didn't stop working it. Eyes forward, a girl grinding cinquefoil for a headache powder, and certainly not talking to the dark below the grate.
"The row's been talking about drains all morning. I find I've developed a professional interest in drains."
I need a name.
He passed the folded leaf up through the bars, into the shadow of her stall cloth where her hand was already waiting. Her fingers moved. Paper whispered. The pestle never broke rhythm. Then it broke rhythm. He watched it happen from below, watched her go from a girl at a grindstone to a statue of one, and watched her ember, which ran quick and bright on the best of days, bank itself hard, the way a body banks before it takes a blow it has seen coming. She folded the leaf back along his own creases, small and precise, and when her hand came back down through the bars and pressed the paper into his palm, She closed his fingers over it and held them closed.
There are 4 crests in this city. My guild oath forbids me to read aloud.
Sarah said to the cinquefoil pleasantly, in the voice of a shop girl discussing weather.
You found one of them. Burn this before you're home.
Shrug.
They hold the guild's paper. They hold my master's paper, which means they hold my indenture, which means the polite fiction of my whole life at this stall is that their bird does not exist, and I have never seen it speak.
The pestle resumed, steady as a metronome, and her voice underneath it dropped to the register he'd only heard from her once, at the end of a long trade, when she'd asked why he prepared like a surgeon.
But nothing in my oath stops me listening. Give me 3 days. Powder room. Gossip runs richer than you'd think, and I know which clerks drink.
They wrote people, Sarah. Live wait, 9 years of seasons.
The pestle stopped again, held this time, deliberate. Above the bars in the lamplight, Sarah Voss looked at the place where his voice came from, and for once didn't pretend to be looking anywhere else. And her ember did something he declined, professionally, to diagnose.
Then in 3 days, I'll know which clerks weep too,
she said.
Watch the 3rd bar of this grate. Blue thread means, come at closing bell, I have something. Red thread means the rose watched. You don't come back at all until it's gone.
A beat, and the ghost of the dry smile arrived ahead of the words.
You're a bad investment, Mender. My master says never stock what you can't shelf price, and here I am, cornering the market.
A watchman's lamp swung onto the row's far end, and the space above the bars was all shop girl again, weighing powder, singing out prices. Ben went back into the dark with the bird burning a hole in his shirt, and it wasn't until the second junction that he let himself hold the other things she'd slipped him along with his own paper. A twist of waxed cloth, warm from her stall lamp, smelling of resin and honey. Throat lozenges. For a voice that lived in the damp, said the small, tidy writing on the wrap, and there was no charge written anywhere on it, and that, in the ledger of the great market, was not nothing. That was an entry in a whole different book. The chalk was waiting at the whistle post by dusk. Not the dead drop, the post itself, the public stone, where any passing tale could read it. Written in a fast professional fist Ben recognized, because the last time he'd seen it, it had said his hands come whole. The captain proposes terms. Rope walk, moonset, 2 lamps, 6 and 6. No dogs, no bows, no casters. The token buys the truce. V. The council around Aught's map was loud for the length of time it took Mara to be quiet at it.
It's wire.
Rill said flatly, splint gone, but the memory of it still in how he stood.
A year's wages says the rope walk's crawling by midnight. He wants the ground back and us standing on it.
Catchers don't parlay with tails.
Harl rumbled.
Never once. Bounty men don't buy what they can bag.
He turned his gravel on Ben.
But that's the arithmetic, isn't it, lad? Bag us he can't. As of last night, he knows it in his purse.
He canceled the bone weight push.
Ben set the iron token on the map where the rope walk ran.
40 crews stood down. That's not a man-baiting wire. That's a man who's already sent the guild an invoice for a fire he didn't stop and needs the next line of his report to say something better than we lost more buckles.
He looked around the circle.
I've sat across from men like this in another trade. He'll keep the truce to the letter because the letter's the whole religion. And then every word out of him will be a knife with paperwork.
An angry man with dogs I can price.
Mara said at last, dry as tinder.
A careful man asking to talk is dearer, always. But we're rich this week.
Her clouded eyes came around.
6 and 6, Mender talks, I stand second.
Tusk raised one scarred paw, the smallest measurable amount, which in Tusk was a filibuster.
You're 4 of the 6 on your own, old friend.
Mara said.
You come.
Hob Vance came down to Moonset in the rope walk exactly as written. 2 lamps, 6 men, no dogs, and a coat over his half-plate, like a man dressed for weather rather than war. Ben watched him arrive from the dark and made himself catalog instead of hate. Deliberate feet on wet stone. A man who'd walked worse ground than this. Eyes that went up before they went forward. into the dead cordage overhead where the nets had lived, and read what had hung there, and gave it a slow, professional nod, the way one tradesman admires another's joinery. An ember like banked coal, 7 layers deep, no flutter in it, no greed, no fear, nothing to grip. The lieutenant at his shoulder carried a satchel and the specific misery of a man whose captain has decided to be interesting. Vance stopped at 10 paces, sat on a fallen bollard as if it had been arranged for him, and set his lantern down. Ben stepped out of the seam in the wall and had the satisfaction, small and vicious and human, of seeing 6 catchers flinch at where he'd been standing all along. Vance didn't flinch. Vance smiled like a man having a theory confirmed. Ben set the iron token upright on a flagstone between them and sat on the stone opposite and waited.
Master Mender.
The captain's voice was level and unhurried, a clerk's voice wearing a soldier's chest.
Or Scribe Tongue, or the Drain Ghost, or the Gutter King. You're under several names in this week's paper, none of them cheap. What do you answer to?
Ben.
Hob Vance.
He said it like a signature.
You've cost me, Ben. 40 crew's wages, standing idle, a render house and its season. An agent, the guild has him now, and his testimony, which is a bill I'll be paying out of my reputation for years. My employers are unhappy in 3 different directions at once.
He turned one gloved hand over, unhurried.
I came to thank you.
You came to count me.
Something moved behind the captain's eyes. The first real thing,
Yes,
Vance said.
that too. I've hunted these tunnels 20 years, man and boy. Everything down here runs, hides, or dies. Last night something bought, sold, planned, waited, and burned only the room with the paper in it. I needed to see what that looks like sitting still.
He looked unhurried, unashamed, the way Ben read embers.
Small.
He concluded.
The reports keep saying so, and my crews keep not believing it. Now, terms.
The lieutenant's satchel produced a document with seals on it like wounds.
At dawn, the long bells ring, quota met, and purge week ends. 2 days early. Every crew comes up out of the dark. Every wire comes with them. The smoke carts go back in their sheds. The season closes, and closed seasons hold. That law is older than the guild, and even my employers step around it.
Vance let that sit.
In exchange, the ledger.
No.
It came out flat and final, and Ben watched the captain absorb it. No anger, just recalculation, an abacus resetting.
That book
Ben said,
is the only receipt 11 living people have. It's the only place their price is written, which means it's the only proof there was a crime, which means it's the only headstone 9 years of the rendered get. It's not for sale. Not for 2 days of bells.
You can't read it in court, Mender. There's no court in Marrowgate that seats a tale.
Then I'll hold it until there is one,
Ben said.
or until I've built something that does the same work. I'm told I plan.
And there, for one banked coal of a second, the ember 7 layers deep flared, and it wasn't rage. Ben knew the color of rage. This was worse. It was interest.
Second offer, then. Not mine. I'm the postman for this one.
Vance drew off his glove, deliberate, and took from the satchel a small card of heavy cream paper and laid it on the flagstone beside the token. Even by lantern light, even upside down, Ben knew the bird.
The house whose evening you spoiled has a use for a man of your... The word in the letter is talents. Papers of freehold. A dispensary above ground, licensed, funded. Patients who pay in gold instead of soup bones. Protection, which in this city is the only medicine that actually cures anything.
The captain's voice stayed level as a ledger rule.
You'd want for nothing.
I have patience.
They'd let you keep a few. Charity plays well in the terraces.
I have patience.
Ben said again in the bedside voice. The final one, the one for families who needed to hear that the decision had already been made by the body on the table and was no longer anyone's to argue.
Every one of them. Tell the bird it can't shelf price me. Someone already tried this week. The market's cornered.
Silence, 10 paces of it. The lieutenant had stopped breathing. Behind Ben, Mara's spear butt rested on stone, patient as roots, and far overhead the dead ropes creaked in a draft that came from a burned district, and Hob Vance looked at the small gray thing that a paper had once called merchandise and put his glove back on.
They ask me what you are.
He said, conversational now. Terms concluded, a man folding up his shop.
In the letter, direct question, one line, very costly ink. I wrote back that I did not know.
He rose off the bollard and picked up the cream card and left the iron token standing where it was.
You should understand the effect of that answer, Mender. A house like that owns one of everything. The only thing it stirs for, the only thing is an item it can't yet name. I've made you a curiosity. I'm not sure whether I've done it to you or for you. And that's the first time in 20 years I've written a sentence I couldn't cost.
Ask them about the ceiling while you're writing.
Ben said. Vance paused, half-turned. For the first time, he looked like he didn't have the next line in the folder.
Grade ceilings, Captain. Who sets them? Enforced by what? You're a counting man. You've spent 20 years harvesting a people who cap at bronze. And I'd bet your fine cream correspondence you've never once asked who wrote the cap.
Ben stood and picked up the token, and it was cold in his palm now and fitted.
Your machine runs on a number somebody chose. I've met the paperwork. When you find out who holds the pen, come down and tell me, and I'll tell you what I am.
The captain of catchers stood in the rope walk with his lantern throwing his shadow 40 feet up the dead cordage and studied Ben the way other men read scripture. And then, carefully, precisely, and with the unhurried horror of a man doing it on purpose. He laughed. Once, it echoed.
The bell's at dawn.
Hob Vance said, going up into his city.
Keep the season closed, Mender. And keep expensive. It's the only law up here that holds.
The long bells rang quota at first light 2 days early, and the sound came down through the grates and the drains and the bones of the underworld like weather breaking. Ben stood at the wall that wasn't and listened to the Warren not cheer, 100 held breaths letting go one at a time, refugees weeping quietly into soup, Nib running the inner rounds, shouting the news to people who could hear the bells perfectly well themselves, Granny Sorrel declaring loudly that she'd known worse purges, which was, from her, a parade. Harl's dockside bucks would go home today. The freed would sleep and wake badly, and sleep again, and someday. He knew the arc of it, had walked it with 900 families. Wake all the way. The green text came while the bells were still rolling.
Title earned expensive. The Covenant price is what hunts you. Your price has been revised. Interested parties have been notified.
Wonderful.
Ben told it.
Notify them twice.
And then, because it only ever spoke to choices, the other ledger opened, ember red in the ringing dark.
Deed witnessed, he was offered the world above and kept the one below. The Covenant assigns this no value. Below the bottom of the world, you have been moved from one column to another. The heading of the new column is Mine.
Ben looked at that last line a long time, in the place behind his eyes where it lived. Somewhere above him, a careful man was drafting a letter he couldn't cost. Somewhere above that, a lean bird held a key in its beak and had begun, patiently, to want him. And somewhere beneath everything, older than all of it, something that had been poor a very long time, had just written his name into its empty book.
I'm keeping my own books now.
He told the dark and went in to do his rounds. Past Scabs sitting the watch he no longer had to be chained to. Past Fen, who slept finally with both hands open. And the dark, for once, in whatever column it kept such things, let the mender have the last word,